Welcome to the virtual open house for the Business 51 project in Stevens Point. Today, we're going to introduce you to the project, discuss the purpose and need for potential improvements, and take a look at several alternatives that are being considered. After viewing this presentation, please take a look at the exhibits posted on the project website and complete the online comment form to share your opinions with the project team. This project is a partnership between the City of Stevens Point and the consulting firm AECOM. The city's key representative for the project is Scott Badoon, the Director of Public Works. The consultant project manager is Amy Canfield. In addition to AECOM, there are several sub-consultants working on various parts of the project. Another significant part of the project team is you. We want to hear what you think of the ideas presented today. There are multiple ways to get involved. You can complete the online comment form. There is a link on the project website. You can participate in one of the live Q&A sessions to be held on March 2nd and March 4th, or you can email a member of the project team. Email addresses are provided at the end of this presentation. Now let's talk about what the Business 51 project entails. The corridor we are studying for improvements is 3 miles long and stretches from the south city limits to North Point Drive. The roadway has 4 lanes, and for the majority of the corridor, there is no separation between opposing directions of traffic. Traffic volumes range from 9,000 vehicles per day to 13,700 vehicles per day. This project consists of a planning study to determine what roadway improvements are needed, followed by a design phase where preliminary plans will be completed. At the beginning of every project, we need to determine our why for the project. The purpose and need defines the why for a project. The purpose of the Business 51 project is to address the pavement, safety, and multimodal needs of the Business 51 corridor while ensuring efficient traffic flow. The pavement need speaks for itself. Anyone who travels on Business 51 knows the pavement is in rough shape in many locations. Frequent potholes and a bumpy surface are common. Conditions for pedestrians and bicyclists are also less than ideal. The sidewalk is often immediately adjacent to the roadway. There are no pedestrian islands in the middle of the road, and bicyclists lack designated facilities. Improving safety, however, is the biggest corridor need. If there is one thing you remember today about why we need to make changes to the design of this roadway, it is because we need to improve safety. We can do better than the existing roadway. For automobiles, for pedestrians, for bicyclists, for everyone, no matter how they choose to get around. Crashes were bad when we first studied this roadway in 2012 and 2013. They are worse now. Business 51 north of Ellis Street has a higher crash rate than 95% of similar roads in Wisconsin, based on crash data supplied by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Crash rate is a function of both the number of vehicles using the roadway and the number of crashes that occur. The darker red an area is, the higher the crash rate in that area. We examined all the crashes on Business 51 in the 5-year period from 2015 through 2019 to make this figure showing corridor crash rates. The alternatives we will be showing you today have the potential to reduce crashes by up to 20 to 50%, depending on the specific corridor location. Now let's talk about the details of the alternatives proposed for Business 51. For the purposes of describing the existing roadway and potential improvement alternatives, we've divided the roadway into 3 segments: south, central, and north. Each segment has a unique typical section and different surrounding land use. Several preliminary alternatives were considered for each segment. For details on these alternatives, please see the Preliminary Alternatives Carried Forward document on the website in the same location where you found this presentation. One of the things we have consistently heard from members of our stakeholders group and the public is the desire to limit right-of-way acquisition as much as possible. The alternatives proposed seek to do that, while still meeting the purpose and need for the project. Another key question we've heard from the public is, why can't we just leave the roadway the way it is? As we just discussed, there are 3 main improvement needs for the Business 51 corridor: safety, multimodal accommodations, and pavement. Repaving the roadway would address only one of these needs. Multiple areas of Business 51 experience high crash rates. Additionally, the narrow terraces, lack of pedestrian islands, and absence of bicycle accommodations make the roadway uncomfortable for people walking and biking. The traffic volume on Business 51 also does not necessitate a 4-lane roadway. The only way to adequately address the safety and multimodal needs of the corridor is by considering changes to the roadway, such as adding a raised median or reducing the number of lanes. We'll start our discussion of the detailed alternatives with the South segment. This segment runs from the South city limits to Patch Street. Two alternatives are being considered for the South segment between the South city limits and Michigan Avenue. One alternative includes 4 through lanes, a raised median, bike lanes, a wide terrace, and a sidewalk. The second alternative includes 2 through lanes, a 2-way left turn lane, bicycle facilities, a wide terrace, and a sidewalk. The 2-lane alternative maintains the existing location of the sidewalk. The 4-lane alternative requires strip right-of-way acquisition on both sides of the roadway. North of Michigan Ave, only the 2-lane alternative is proposed. In this portion of the South segment, the existing homes and businesses are closer to the roadway than in the area south of Michigan Ave. Continuing the 4-lane alternative would result in several relocations. Potential impacts of each of these alternatives are listed in the Detailed Alternatives Comparison exhibit found on the website. Another design option we would like your input on is how to handle the Rice Street and Patch Street intersections. On the project website, you will find a large map of the South segment design alternatives. On this map, you will see 2 options for each of these intersections. The first option, which minimizes right-of-way acquisition, keeps the intersections at their existing locations. The second option for the Rice Street intersection realigns Rice Street to line up with Whiting Avenue to make one intersection. The second option for the Patch Street intersection realigns Patch Street to line up with Francis Street to make one intersection. Take a look at the 2 options and let us know what you think in the online comment form on the project website. The 4-lane alternative continues the typical section of 4 lanes, a raised median, and a bike lane found south of the project area in Whiting. Dedicated left turn lanes are provided at intersections to improve safety and traffic operations. The raised median would be wide enough in many places to plant trees or other landscaping. Wide terraces and bike lanes help shelter pedestrians from traffic and provide room for utilities and snow storage. This alternative would require strip right-of-way acquisition of approximately 12 feet on either side of the roadway. In addition, 2 business relocations would be likely, the Church Street Motel and Sudsey Car Wash. As we approach Michigan Ave, the right travel lane ends and turns into a right turn only lane. The 4-lane alternative ends at Michigan Ave, and the proposed roadway transitions to 2 lanes with a 2-way left turn lane in the center. The 2-lane alternative would begin just north of the railroad tracks. The full lane drop would occur prior to the Church Street intersection. At this point, the raised median would end, and the roadway typical section would consist of 2 lanes with a center 2-way left turn lane, bicycle facilities, a grass terrace, and sidewalks. Unlike the 4-lane alternative, this alternative maintains the existing sidewalk location and does not require any relocations. Although consolidation of access points is proposed for both the 2-lane and 4-lane alternatives, the center turn lane provides full access to businesses that the raised median does not. Similar to the 4-lane alternative, dedicated right and left turn lanes at the signalized intersections help keep traffic flowing and signal operations acceptable. Now let's talk about the alternatives for the central segment. The central segment stretches from Patch Street to 4th Avenue. Although the central segment only has one base alternative, a 2-lane roadway, There are a few different variations being considered that we would like your input on. As we leave the south segment and head under the railroad bridge, the center two-way left turn lane disappears temporarily so that we can use the additional width to provide a wider sidewalk under the bridge to improve the pedestrian environment. There are no access points in this area, so the two-way left turn lane is not needed. On the north side of Veterans Park, the on-street bicycle lanes end. The existing right-of-way in the central segment north of this area is too narrow to accommodate both on-street bicycle lanes and wider terraces. The proposed alternatives prioritize improving the pedestrian environment over providing bicycle lanes. In the residential area of the central segment, the typical section consists of 2 through lanes, a center two-way left turn lane, grass terraces, and a sidewalk. In several locations, pedestrian islands are provided in the middle of the road to facilitate safe pedestrian crossings at unsignalized intersections. The area between Ellis Street and College Avenue has some of the highest levels of traffic congestion in the corridor. Because of this, the design for this area proposes long, look-ahead left turn lanes, right turn lanes, and 1 through lane in each direction to keep traffic moving efficiently. There are 2 alternatives in this area for you to consider. One seeks to minimize right-of-way impacts by providing a narrower typical section, but by doing so, it does not provide separation between opposing directions of traffic or a grass terrace to separate pedestrians from traffic. The second alternative does these things, but requires additional right-of-way acquisition in this area. This video begins halfway through the central segment at Ellis Street. When the video starts, note the raised median in the middle of the street. This island serves 2 safety purposes. First, it limits cross traffic to right-in, right-out movements at Ellis Street. The second benefit of this island is that it provides a refuge for pedestrians and bicyclists trying to cross the street. To minimize right-of-way acquisition, no grass terrace is provided between the roadway and sidewalk with this option. The right turn lanes needed at Clark and Main Street result in some right-of-way acquisition and 2 relocations on the west side of Business 51 just south of College Ave. There is a strong focus on improving the pedestrian environment in the central segment. As we move north, the center two-way left turn lane returns. Near the YMCA, you can see a pedestrian island in the center of the road. Several more of these are proposed for the residential area south of Ellis Street. You will notice that no bike lanes are proposed in the central segment. There is simply not enough space to provide a wider terrace and bike lanes. The 4th Avenue intersection is another area where we are considering multiple options, the signalized intersection shown in this video and a roundabout. Next up are the alternatives for the north segment. The north segment starts at 4th Avenue and ties into the roundabout at North Point Drive. In the north segment, there are 2 alternatives to consider. The first alternative includes 4 lanes with a raised median. The second alternative includes 2 lanes with a raised median. Both alternatives include bike lanes, which in some areas are separated from traffic by a painted buffer, a grass terrace, and a sidewalk. The north segment has significantly more existing right-of-way than the south or central segments. Therefore, the typical sections proposed include wider medians, wider terraces, and sidewalks than in other areas of the corridor. Let's start by talking about the 4th Avenue intersection. This intersection has a significant pedestrian volume due to its proximity to the university, and also has one of the highest intersection crash rates of the corridor. 2 options for this location are being considered, the signalized option shown here and a roundabout. The 2 options have similar costs and impacts. North of 4th Avenue, we add a second lane to make this a 4-lane roadway. The existing center two-way left turn lane would be replaced with a raised median. Dedicated left turn lanes are provided at intersections and median openings. Similar to the south segment, consolidation of access points is recommended for this area to reduce the number of conflict points and improve safety for all modes of transportation. On-street bike lanes are provided throughout the north segment. South of Maria Drive, the bike lanes are adjacent to the travel lanes. North of Maria Drive, where the existing right-of-way is widest, the bike lanes are separated from traffic by a painted buffer. The 4th Avenue intersection options, either a traffic signal or a roundabout, are feasible whether the corridor has 4 lanes or 2 lanes. When school is in session, several hundred people walk across Business 51 every day, and many of the businesses near the university cater to students on foot. If the corridor has 2 lanes, as is shown in this alternative, the design will also include a raised median and buffered on-street bike lanes. A grass terrace and sidewalk complete the typical section. The raised median provided as part of this alternative improves safety by separating opposing directions of traffic. In addition to providing space for bikes, the painted buffer and bike lane also provide enough pavement for vehicles to pull over in case an emergency vehicle needs to pass. The project team has met with representatives from the fire department twice to discuss the alternatives proposed for the north, south, and central segments to ensure the designs consider the needs of emergency vehicle operations. Now that we've seen the details of the alternatives, let's talk about how they compare. Many people who are concerned about reducing the number of lanes on Business 51 are worried about the impact that change may have on traffic congestion. In a corridor like Business 51, traffic flow is largely dependent on the operations at signalized intersections. Some of the busiest signalized intersections, like those at Clark and Main Streets, will be designed with left and right turn lanes and improved signal timing in order to keep traffic flowing. Will traffic drive slower through the corridor if a 2-lane alternative is selected? Yes, that is likely during peak hours, as the speed of traffic will be determined by the lead vehicle. But remember, the speed limit on Business 51 is and always has been 25 miles per hour. This is not a high-speed roadway, and traffic calming is proven to make the roadway safer for everyone using it: automobiles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. We talked previously about how changing the roadway typical section is key to making significant improvements to safety for all roadway users. This diagram shows the anticipated reduction in crashes if the existing 4-lane undivided roadway is converted to either a 4-lane with a raised median or a 2-lane with a 2-way left turn lane or raised median. Throughout the corridor, we anticipate at least a 20% reduction in crashes, with higher reductions possible in certain areas, especially those that currently have the highest crash rates, like the area between Ellis Street and 4th Avenue. Removing left-turning traffic from the through lanes and providing separation between opposing directions of traffic are key factors in reducing crashes. Another phrase we've mentioned on social media is the concept of livability and the role that transportation systems play in improving quality of life for people in a community. Roadways and transportation choices influence the livability of a community. Livable communities have safe transportation choices for people regardless of how they choose to get around. The proposed alternatives create wider terraces to buffer pedestrians from traffic and provide a more pleasant and safer walking experience. In the south and north segments, on-street bicycle accommodations are proposed. In the central segment, where right-of-way is limited, pedestrian accommodations are prioritized and bicycle accommodations are not provided. Another benefit of additional green space in the terrace or within a raised median is the ability to increase stormwater infiltration, provide room for aesthetic improvements such as trees or other plantings, and to provide space for utilities and snow storage. Now let's go over a few things you can do after watching this presentation. If you haven't already, please review the following documents and videos on the project website. Share them with your friends and neighbors and encourage them to educate themselves on the purpose and need for the project and the potential alternatives. If you have questions about the project, Join us at one of our live virtual Q&A sessions. The first session will be held on Tuesday, March 2nd from 5 to 6 p.m. Additional sessions will be held on Thursday, March 4th from 12 to 1 p.m. and 5 to 6 p.m. Check the project website for links to join these Zoom meetings. A public comment form is also available on the project website from now until Sunday, March 14th. We are currently wrapping up the evaluation of alternatives phase of the project and will be moving into the recommended alternative phase. We anticipate putting out another public survey in April and holding our last round of public involvement in May before recommending an alternative to the Board of Public Works in June. After a recommended alternative is selected, preliminary plans will be completed for the proposed design later this year. Thank you for your continued interest in the Business 51 project. If you would like to submit written comments, please do so by using the online comment form linked on the project website. If you have further questions about the project, you may contact Scott Badoon, City of Stevens Point Director of Public Works, and Amy Canfield, AECOM Project Manager, at the email addresses noted here.